Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're bringing you a brand new chapter that's gonna be epic. I'm super excited and I know you are too. Are you ready to see how this incredible story continues? Because I can't wait any longer. Quick heads up before we start. The original author's link is already in the video description. Go follow his work and support him. And the best part, join the original author's Discord. The link is also in the description. There you can chat directly with him, ask all your questions, and check out exclusive images of the characters. Don't miss it. And now, without further ado, let's dive into today's chapter. Enjoy it to the fullest.
Chapter 4. The Echoes of the Night. Monday, April 6, 1992, 7 p.m., 1 o'clock a.m. The scream into the pillows still echoed in her ears. Usage lay on her back, the plush toy of Luna, the stuffed cat, not the real one, whom she hadn't met yet, crushed against her chest. Her heart was still beating strongly, as if she'd just run a marathon. Or as if she'd just lived the most incredible afternoon of her 14 years of existence. Her father's embarrassed expression, her mother's arched eyebrow, Shinko's little laugh, all faded before the memory of fingers brushing her cheek. She brought her hand to her cheek. It was still there. The warmth. The ghost of his touch. How silly I am. But she smiled like a fool. She sat up in bed. She couldn't stay like this, her head full of birds and her stomach full of butterflies, and of curry, which she had eventually eaten for dinner before coming upstairs, though she barely remembered it. She had to do something. Something to capture that moment before it faded like a dream upon waking. Her eyes scanned the room. The messy desk. The notebooks piled in disarray. The case of color pencils her mother had bought her at the start of the school year and she barely used. An idea sprouted in her mind. A silly idea. A wonderful idea. She grabbed an old spiral notebook, the kind she used to doodle hearts and little stars during boring classes. She opened it to a blank page. Picked up a pencil. Bit her lower lip, concentrating. Okay. It's just a drawing. What's the worst that could happen? The worst that could happen was what happened. She traced a circle for the head. Too big. Like a balloon about to burst. Then she tried to draw the hair. White. Long. Flowing like silk. But her pencil, rebellious and clumsy, only managed to create an amorphous mass that looked like a fat, pale noodle falling onto a watermelon. The eyes. One pink. One green. Two colored circles that ended up cross-eyed and asymmetrical. The nose. A dot. The mouth. A trembling curve that was meant to be a smile and ended up a strange grimace. Usage contemplated her creation. It was horrible. It was deformed. It was a stick figure that would give any small child nightmares. It looked nothing like Mamoru's cheetah. Nothing at all. And yet, she smiled. A warm, intimate smile, just for herself. It was her Mamoru. Her clumsy, imperfect, adorable version of him. Like herself. Clumsy, imperfect, and, well, the adorable part, others would have to decide. She picked up the pencil again. Very carefully, she wrote a letter beneath the stick figure. An M. She circled it with a tiny, almost invisible heart. Then, frightened by her own boldness, she snapped the notebook shut. She tucked it into her nightstand drawer, under a pile of old manga magazines her mother threatened to throw away. It would be safe there. Her secret treasure. She sighed. Looked at the clock on her nightstand. 8:30. Still early. She should do her homework. Her English notebook lay open on her desk, a blank page silently accusing her. She dragged herself to the chair. Picked up her pen. Hello. My name is Usage. I am 14 years old. She stopped. Before, that sentence was easy to finish. I like cake. I like sleeping. I like manga. But now her hand wanted to write something else. A word that started with M, a word that tickled her stomach and quickened her pulse. I like Mamoru. No. She couldn't write that. It was too soon. Too real. Too terrifying. She closed the English notebook. It didn't matter. Ms. Haruna already expected her to fail. One more day without doing homework wouldn't change anything. She collapsed back onto the bed. Turned off the nightstand lamp. Darkness filled the room, broken only by the faint glow of streetlights filtering through the window. She hugged her pillow tightly. Closed her eyes. And then, like a movie projected on the back of her eyelids, the afternoon began again. The collision. The solidity of his chest beneath his uniform. His arms encircling her without squeezing, protecting her. The scent of vanilla and sandalwood that had enveloped her like a spell. His eyes. That pinkish violet that looked like a cotton candy galaxy. That wood green that reminded her of the Okinawan Sea. The way he'd looked at her. As if she were the only person in the world. The cafe. The macarons. His laugh. That soft, bell-like laugh that tickled her soul. His words. It's a pleasure watching you eat. No one had ever said anything like that to her. No one had ever looked at her like that while she devoured pastries like a human vacuum cleaner. And the touch. The brush of his fingers on her cheek, wiping away a smear of frosting. Such a small, simple, so intimate gesture. As if he had the right to touch her. As if she were something of his to take care of. Memo-chan. The nickname echoed in her mind, soft and warm like a secret. She hadn't said it out loud yet. But in the privacy of her room, in the darkness of the night, she could call him whatever she wanted. Memo-chan. My Memo-chan. One final image crossed her mind before sleep claimed her. The image of him walking down the street, receding under the glow of the street lights. His tall figure. His white hair. And that strange, wonderful feeling that something had begun. Something she didn't understand. Something that filled her with a new and bright hope. Please. Let tomorrow be just as wonderful. And the day after. And the next. Let it never end. She fell asleep with a smile on her lips. The same silly smile she'd worn all afternoon. The smile of a 14-year-old girl who had just discovered, without quite knowing how or why, that she was totally, absolutely, irremediably in love. Ami Mizuno's apartment was silent. A dense, muffled silence, broken only by the distant hum of the refrigerator and the ticking of the wall clock. She'd taken off her uniform as soon as she arrived. Hanging it carefully on a hanger, smoothing the wrinkles with the palm of her hand. She'd put on gray sweatpants and a navy blue sweatshirt. Comfortable clothes. At-home clothes. Loneliness clothes. Her mother wasn't there. Night shift at the hospital. There was a note on the fridge, held by a dolphin-shaped magnet. Dinner in the blue Tupperware. Eat for 3 minutes. Love you. Mom. Ami read the note twice. Carefully peeled it off the magnet. Went to her room and opened a desk drawer. Inside, a box of black lacquered wood. She opened it. It was full of identical notes. Dozens of them. Love you. Mom. Coming home late tonight. Love you. Mom. Congratulations on your grades. Love you. Mom. She collected them. She wasn't sure why. Perhaps because they were the only tangible proof that her mother thought of her when she wasn't there. She put the new note with the others. Closed the box. Closed the drawer. She went to the kitchen. Took out the blue Tupperware. Opened it. Vegetable soup and white rice. Heated it in the microwave. Exactly 3 minutes. Sat at the living room table, alone, the steaming Tupperware in front of her. She ate in silence. Chewing slowly. Not really tasting. Her mind wasn't on the food. It was in a secret garden. At a stone table beneath a blooming cherry tree. At a row of perfectly aligned pastel-colored macarons. At a soft, bell-like laugh. At 2 colored eyes that had looked at her with curiosity and respect. She finished dinner. Washed the Tupperware. Left it drying in the dish rack. Went to her room. Sat at her desk. Turned on the lamp. Took out a notebook with a blue cover. It wasn't a class notebook. It was her personal observations journal. A diary in disguise, camouflaged as a scientific report. She opened it to the last written page. Her eyes scanned the notes she'd made that afternoon, as soon as she got home. Mamorushita. 14 years old. Transferred from Serum Private Academy. Complete heterochromia, left, pinkish violet/right, blue-green. Probable cause, genetic mutation or medical condition. Approximate height, 1.85 m. Athletic build. Possible sports practice. Native level English proficiency. Possible polyglot. High-level pastry skill, macarons. Manga drawing with unique style. Personality. Reserved in public, expressive in private. Sense of humor. Generosity, shared his food in a space. Ami nibbled the end of her pen. Added a new line. Unexplainable connection with usage at Tosikino. Observe future interactions. Preliminary hypothesis. Simple nascent friendship or indication of something more. She stopped. Rear at the last sentence. Or indication of something more. Why had she written that? What did she care if usage in Mamoru had something more? She was a neutral observer. A scientist. Others' feelings were none of our business, beyond their value as data. She closed the notebook with a sharp gesture. Lie. She was lying to herself. She wasn't neutral. She wasn't just an observer. There was something about Mamoru Chiba that intrigued her beyond the intellectual. Something that made her want to know more. Not just data. She wanted to know what books he read. What music he listened to. Why he'd chosen the secret garden. Why his eyes, sometimes, seemed to look inward, toward a distant, melancholy place. She wanted to talk to him. Alone. Without her friends. Without interruptions. The idea hit her with the force of a revelation. She, Ami Mizuno, the girl who preferred books to people, wanted to talk to a boy. To a specific boy. Alone. What's happening to me? She got up from the chair. Went to the bathroom. Splashed cold water on her face. Looked at herself in the mirror. Her reflection gave back the usual image. Perfectly combed navy blue hair. Glasses. Serene expression. But her cheeks, were they slightly flushed? She took off her glasses. Rubbed her eyes. Put them back on. Focus, Ami. He's just a new boy. An interesting specimen. Nothing more. But her reflection did look convinced. She returned to her room. Turned off the desk lamp. Lay down on the bed, back straight, like a soldier. Closed her eyes. Tried to sleep. Impossible. The images returned. The garden. The macarons. His eyes. His voice. The way he'd said her name. Mizuno-san. With a velvety timbre that seemed to caress each syllable. She turned to one side. Then the other. Side. Mamoru Chiba. A fascinating enigma. That's all. Just an enigma. But in the darkness of her room, where no one could see her, she allowed herself a small smile. Just for herself. Hikawa Shrine was wrapped in the sacred silence of the night. The last visitors had left hours ago. The stone lanterns in the garden cast long shadows on the gravel. The wind gently swayed the cherry tree branches. Phobos and Deimos, Riz-2 crows, dozed on their porch perch, heads buried in their feathers. Redihina was in the sacred fire chamber. She'd changed out of her school uniform into a comfortable white cotton robe. She'd pulled her long black hair back into a low, practical ponytail. She'd knelt before the fire, on a meditation cushion. The fire crackled. The flames danced, hypnotic, shifting. Reddy had known them since she was a child. Her grandfather had taught her to read their shapes, their colors, their sounds. The fire never led. The fire showed what one needed to see, not what one wanted to see. She closed her eyes. Took a deep breath. Inhale. Exhale. Empty the mind. Let the fire speak. But the fire didn't speak. The fire was restless. Like her. The flames crackled with an erratic, nervous rhythm. They changed color. From warm orange to deep red. From red to gold. A gold red I didn't remember ever seeing in the sacred fire. A pure, bright, almost metallic gold. She opened her eyes. The flames formed a shape. It wasn't random. It wasn't a figment of her imagination. It was a rose. A golden rose. Perfect. Complete. It glowed with its own light in the heart of the fire. Reddy held her breath. The golden rose vanished as quickly as it had appeared. In its place, the flames quieted. And in the center of the fire, like a reflection in a liquid mirror, a pair of eyes appeared. One pinkish violet. One blue-green. They stared at her. Without judgment. Without emotion. Just recognition. As if they knew her from before. As if they'd been waiting for her. Red jumped to her feet. Her heart hammered against her ribs. She grabbed the poker and stirred the coals with a brusque gesture. The flames flared for an instant, then calmed, returning to their usual orange. The eyes disappeared. She stood there, panting, poker in hand. Nonsense. Just my imagination. First day stress. Tiredness. Nothing more. But her hands trembled slightly. And her heart was still racing. She put the poker back in its place. Left the fire chamber. Slid the sliding door shut with a sharp motion. walked down the hallway to her room. Phobos and Dingles raised their heads as she passed, eyes gleaming in the darkness. She ignored them. She entered her room, closed the door, sat in front of a dressing table mirror. She stared at herself. Her reflection gave back the usual image. Pale skin, dark violet eyes, lips pressed into a severe line. But there was something different. Something deep in her pupils. A gleam that wasn't hers. A fire she hadn't lit. She picked up her hairbrush, began brushing her long black hair with long, rhythmic, almost hypnotic strokes. A ritual that usually calmed her. Tonight, it didn't. Okay. He's handsome. Very handsome. Too handsome. And he has a nice voice. And he smells good. And he seems kind. And his laugh is pleasant. But that doesn't mean anything. I'm not like Usagi, who falls in love with anyone who gives her a piece of candy. I have standards. He doesn't meet them. She put the brush down on the dresser. Does he? Silence. Her reflection didn't answer. But her cheeks, slightly flushed, said it all. She stood up abruptly, turned off the light, lay down on the futon, eyes open in the darkness. Idiot. You're an idiot, Regino. Tomorrow you'll look at him and feel nothing. Nothing. He's just a classmate. One more. Like Minnow. Like anyone else. But Minnow didn't have two colored eyes. Minnow didn't smell like vanilla and sandalwood. Minnow didn't draw manga. Minnow didn't make macarons. Minnow didn't have an ancient, mysterious aura that made the sacred fire behave strangely. Damn. She turned abruptly, turning her back to the window. Squeezed her eyes shut. Sleep was slow to come. And when it finally came, it came hand in hand with an image. A golden rose. And a pair of eyes staring at her from across the fire. Makoto Kino's apartment smelled of curry. She'd prepared dinner for one. A steaming plate of white rice, sautéed vegetables, and a homemade curry she'd been simmering all afternoon. She sat at the living room table, alone, the plate before her and a glass of cold water. She ate in silence, chewing slowly, savoring each bite. But her mind wasn't on the food. It was in another kitchen. A kitchen she didn't know, but could imagine. A large, clean, orderly kitchen. A white-haired boy, alone, weighing ingredients to the gram, sifting almond flour, whipping at whites to stiff peaks. Making macarons. For himself alone. Or perhaps now for someone else. The image sent a strange pang through her chest. Not sadness. It was empathy. She knew what that was like. Cooking for oneself. Filling the silence of the house with the aromas of spices and herbs. Making the kitchen a refuge against loneliness. She finished dinner. Washed the plate. Left it drying in the dish rack. Went to her room. Took out an old notebook, stained with flour and with notes in the margins. Her recipe notebook. Her treasure. She sat on the edge of the bed. Opened it to a blank page. Picked up a pen. Wrote at the top, in her round, careful handwriting, things I could cook for Chiba-kun. Below, a list. Written with excitement. With hope. Curry, my specialty. Today's turned out well. Homemade ramen, chicken broth, pork, vegetables, fresh noodles. Assorted tempura, shrimp, eggplant, sweet potato, mushrooms. Potato and meat croquettes, the ones my mother used to make. Spring vegetable stew, peas, carrots, new potatoes. Banito onigiri, so he can try them, see if he likes them as much as I do. Magic cookies, to practice, see if they turn out as well as his macarons. She stopped. Reread the list. Smiled. It was a list of dishes. But it was also a list of promises. Of shared moments. Of a table that would no longer be empty. Of someone who would truly appreciate her cooking. Someone who understood flavors, textures, cooking times. Someone who, in the secret garden, had said to her with a smile, "If you teach me not to burn rice, it's a deal." She remembered his words clearly. His velvety voice. The gleam in his two-colored eyes. The unspoken promise of cooking together someday. No one had ever made her such a promise. People usually said, "You cook so well, Mikoto." And that was it. But he had proposed an exchange. A trade of knowledge. As if he were her equal. As if her cooking were as valuable as his. She closed the notebook. Put it in her nightstand drawer. Got up. went to her small balcony, her private garden. The pots were lined up in perfect order. Mint, basil, rosemary, a small lemon tree she'd planted a year ago that was just beginning to bear its first fruit. She watered each plant carefully, spoke to them in a low voice, as she always did. It was her nightly ritual. Her plants were her silent company. I met someone today. The mint seemed to perk up a little, as if listening. His name is Mamoruchita. He's new. Very tall. Taller than me. Finally, right. And he likes to cook. Desserts. He makes amazing macarons. And he's kind. And he has a nice laugh. And 2 colored eyes. One pink, one green. Like 2 jewels. A gentle breeze stirred the basil leaves. Makoto smiled. I don't know. It's strange. I've never met anyone like him. He makes me feel, I don't know, like I'm not so alone. Even though I barely know him. Is that silly? The plants didn't answer, of course. But Makoto liked to think they did. That the mint was happy for her. That the rosemary gave her its approval. That the lemon tree promised her lemons to make a special dessert. She stayed a moment longer on the balcony, looking at the moon. The air smelled of spring, of wet earth, of her herbs. She felt hopeful. It was a new feeling. Or perhaps a forgotten one. As if something good were about to begin. She went inside. Closed the balcony door. Got ready for bed. Put on a loose cotton nightgown. Brushed her teeth. Lay down on the bed, which had always seemed too big for one person. But tonight, she didn't mind so much. Because it was full of plans. Of recipes. Of the possibility of sharing. She closed her eyes. Smiled. She fell asleep almost immediately, lulled by thoughts of Korean macarons. And in her dreams, a large table, full of people, full of laughter, full of food. And in the center, a white-haired boy with colored eyes, smiling at her and saying, the salt level is perfect. Someday it would be real. Tokyo slept. The city lights shone like a blanket of artificial stars. Traffic had come. The streets were empty, except for a solitary night owl and the distant echo of a siren. The crescent moon spilled its silver light over the rooftops. In a modest house in the Azajuba neighborhood, a girl with strange buns slept hugging her pillow. On her lips, a silly smile. On her cheek, the ghost of a touch. On her nightstand, a closed notebook that held a deformed stick figure and a tiny heart around an M. She dreamed of strawberry macarons. Of a bell-like laugh. Of 2 colored eyes that looked at her as if she were the only person in the world. In a silent apartment, a blue-haired girl turned over in bed. Her sleep was a whirlwind of data and equations that, suddenly, arranged themselves into the silhouette of a face. A face with sharp features and impossible eyes. She dreamed of an infinite library. And in the center, a boy handing her a book. A book she hadn't read yet. A book she wanted to read with him. In an ancient temple, a girl with long black hair stirred on her futon. Her always furrowed brow relaxed in sleep. She dreamed of fire. A fire that didn't burn. A fire that drew golden roses and 2 colored eyes. She dreamed of a voice calling her from across the flames. A voice she didn't understand, but that her soul recognized. In a small home, a tall, strong girl slept peacefully. Her dream was warm and fragrant. It smelled of curry, of mint, of wet earth. She dreamed of a large table, full of steaming dishes. And around the table, her friends. And her plans. And a white-haired boy who smiled at her and said, the salt level is perfect. The night advanced. The stars followed their slow course across the sky. The moon peeked through the clouds, curious, as if wanting to spy on the dreams of those 4 girls. As if it knew something they still didn't. The first day had ended. And in the silence of the night, 4 hearts beat in unison. Searching for each other without knowing it. Waiting for the morning. A morning that would bring new encounters, new glances, new words. A morning that would bring them one step closer to a destiny they didn't yet understand. A destiny that had begun to weave itself that afternoon, in a secret garden, beneath the blooming cherry tree. A destiny that smelled of vanilla, of sandalwood, and of rose petals. A destiny with a name. Mamoruchita. The night wrapped the city in its cloak of silence. And in the dreams of 4 girls, a name echoed like a promise. A name they still didn't dare to say aloud, but that their hearts had already learned by heart. End of chapter. Ested part. Não importa, é solo para que ela nos corte lá nada y seis complete o job jaja sq me editor es an impiso y no subditor q viva el amor tem mucha agua gracias por xdxdxdxd.
And with that, we've reached the end of today's chapter. What a ride! I'm completely hooked and already craving more. I really hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. This story keeps getting more intense, full of surprises and amazing moments. I still can't believe what just happened. If you liked the chapter, don't forget to drop a like. It helps me a lot. Subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss the next episode. Your support is what allows me to keep bringing more content like this. Remember that the original author's link is in the video description. Go follow his work and support him directly. And the best part, join the original author's Discord. The link is there too. You can chat with him, ask questions, share theories, and see exclusive images of the characters. It's an awesome community. Thank you so much for staying with me until the end of this chapter. You guys are the reason this is worth it. I'm truly grateful to have you here. We'll see each other in the next chapter, which promises to be even more epic. Take care. Bye-bye.
Deixa tudo acontecer, deixa tudo acontecer. Hoje a noite é pra gastar tudo que a gente quiser. Bebe, bebe, depois desce. Gira e não esquece.